All right, so getting down to the end here, one of the little things that's different on a 2003 than it is on the earlier models is this little bar right here. And it's just basically a support bar that runs from that joint there off that bolt on the front control arm back here to the K member. And there's one on both sides. Right there's the other one. And I noticed online there were a lot of questions as to where this thing connects, and I have to admit it was a long time ago I took this thing off, and so I had to look at it for a few minutes and figure out where it went back. So that's a little different than on the earlier models. On the earlier models you can buy a kit that has some pieces like this to help with that support, but don't really need it in the older ones. Alright, so one of the last things to put on is the sway bar in the back, which it was like one of the very first things I took off when I started the project and painted it. This thing was really rusted, and it also was really the only thing I had to cut off. I had to cut this one off right here. These are done with, you have to put an Allen wrench in the end of it to hold it steady while you tie on the knot, or when you while you put on the nut, as these spin in the middle. So I had to get a replacement one. So I really like Moog stuff, so got my new one. So now I can put the sway bar on. All right, well, I was still running a misfire across all the cylinders, so a random misfire, and you know, because it's random, you know it's not a plug, you know it's not the spark, you know it's not an injector now, which I got rid of that one. So again, I sprayed, I did a bunch of spraying and checking. I could hear a little something, you know, all your vacuum lines are over here on this side, but what's hard is your air intake is also right here, and that makes a lot of noise, so it makes it a little tough to hear. I finally figured it out though, and I had a hose that had a cut in it right there. I think when I had pulled it off and moved the clamp back, it must have gotten it. So, and then I realized when I went to check on it, this just pulled right off. So it wasn't sealing up very well anyways. It was this one right here. And so the nice thing, this is the clamp. This clamp just, I don't know, it just wasn't tight anymore. That happens to these spring ones. So the nice thing is I didn't really need that much hose. There was more hose there than you needed. So I trimmed it, cut it back, slipped it on, put a screw-on type clamp, and now I am not throwing a code anymore. So I am code-free. It is saying I have an ABS. The ABS light is on, and I've got the two new hubs up front which have the ABS. I've hooked up the two in the back, so I'm not sure what that is yet. I'm gonna have to figure that one out next. But I'm super excited to have figured this out. These can just be so difficult. I've got the sway bar on, and I'm gonna put the wheels on, and I'm gonna drive this thing around the neighborhood real quick just because I'm dying to. And then I can come back and I can put all the enclosures on to make it look pretty out back here. But good moment. All right, so I got it down off the jack stands. I've got the well, the old tires on them, but I got those full of air, and it is down, and I'm going to take it for a quick spin around the neighborhood before I close it all up again. Had to empty out the driveway. So this is a big moment. We'll see how we do. Alright, so I'm back. I took this thing for a little spin, Brought it back, cleaned up the garage a little bit while I had a chance, and it was pulling a 301 code when I got back, although you really couldn't tell from the idle or anything what was going on. So I started again, pulled the plug. The plug was not gapped exactly right, it was a little close, so I spread it out, changed the coil packs around, that wasn't it. Reset the fuel injector again, which may have been a little loose, hard to say. So got that in there, and now it's idling just fine. Right now it's idling at about 2,000 RPMs and doing just fine until, well, I shouldn't say it's not doing just fine. It's still pulling a 300, which is a random misfire, and it now does a really crazy thing when it reaches temperature. So when it reaches temperature, the idle changes dramatically. So I'm letting it warm up right now, and we'll get that idle figured out. I also figured out, I had a little belt squeak, and figured out that the pulley, you can see there's the pulley, idler pulley, that takes the place of the power steering, is squeaking. So I'm going to have to replace that, but that's certainly not too difficult. Squirted it with a little WD-40, it went away really fast. So I know what that one is, but once this gets warmed up, I'll show you what this idle is doing and get everybody's opinions. Alright, so the engine's up to temperature, and now this is what happens to the idle. It just bogs itself down. I'll put the graph in so you can see kind of what it's doing. It's very consistent. So my initial thought is that it's the idle air control valve, but love to get some input from everybody if they have any ideas. Also, I still got to figure out what happened in that first cylinder.